Today on the Topping Show, Fani Willis admits financial crime under oath. Tucker Carlson on Lindsey Graham pushing Ukraine bill. Women shoplifting in California goes viral. Toast to lay off 10% of workers. Ford CEO Jim Farley claims their Pro line is the future and to forget about things like Tesla. And Lyft has a $2 billion typo error. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of February. So if you click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Toast to lay off 10% of their employees. The revenue is up, but they're still in a little bit of a sticky situation. Now, Toast is perhaps one of the best examples of marketing in terms of a company name. They are becoming one of the most well-known payment processing company in the food industry. So if you especially go to a local mom and pop shop or a smaller restaurant where it's not like a national chain like McDonald's or Burger King or Starbucks, if you go in there, you'll actually see a little device that they usually will hold. Next time you are looking at it, when you put your credit card, look and see if the logo is. More often than not, it is of, and their logo is perfect, their logo is in fact of a bread of toast. And it does the exact same, well, some might argue it does it better than companies like Visa, MasterCard, and all those processing machines and companies, but they're a payment processing company. Now, in terms of the correlation between them laying off 10% of employees, correlating to the number of end users, or in this case, the number of employees being laid off, unfortunately, it looks like specifically about 550 employees will be let go because the company is struggling. Now, thankfully, in terms of the industry, I think the industry is, well, obviously, there seems to be endless opportunities with payment finance companies. So hopefully they're able to find a new place of employment shortly with their skill sets. So hopefully they won't be employed too long from this instance. Now, this is reported by Jordan Savet over at CNBC, and they're noting that the growth rate is going down a little bit. And interestingly enough, they said that it would lay off 550 employees, resulting in 45 to 55 million charges, mostly in the first quarter. Now, the maker of restaurant software reported better than expected results, but continued a slow growth after the acceleration in 2021 when there's a huge boom in the restaurant industry because of the government-forced shutdowns and mandates. They had, again, mentally vacuous in many ways. They would also say, if you own a restaurant, you can operate if you just put people outside. So, again, traditionally, a lot of the restaurants would have the little terminal where you put your credit card in at the front or the back of the store. And then with outside, you want to be more mobile, be more quick and efficient. These machines helped out since, again, they also have a hardware device accompanying the software. And the waitress could just take it up and she could just give you this little machine that's maybe the thickness and size of maybe 4 iPhones, so to say. And yes, Americans will use anything except the metric system for the record. Now, it looks like breaking down some of the other statistics, they note that the earnings per share for the company have a loss of 7 cents per share versus the loss of 11 cents per share as expected. Now, it's one of those things where, just like when Amazon getting started, they lost a lot of money, but they had a lot of revenue for many years. Now, their revenue is a lot more than I thought, actually. The revenue came in at $1.04 billion versus the expected $1.02 billion. They note that the total revenues increased almost 35% year over year during the fiscal quarter. According to the statement, the net loss, however, of $36 million narrowed from the $99 million in year ago quarter. So, rudimentarily speaking, or simply put, last fiscal quarter, Q4, they lost $99 million. This time, fiscal Q4, last quarter, they only lost $36 million. So, again, they're moving in the right direction, but again, they're still losing money. Now, it looks like, let's actually do a quick summary of their stock and see what the fluctuation has been like. Again, none of this is financial advice or anything like that. Truth be told, in terms of gambling and investments, I can't help but think the best investment is kind of cliche to say, but invest in yourself. Learn a new craft or trade or start a business. Sure, it's risky, but I would say it's, well, obviously I'm biased. I own a couple companies, but it is highly rewarding and fascinating journey to say the least. Now, Toast, their stock is actually $22.14 per share. Granted, by the time this video is rendered and actually uploaded to the internets, it'll be fluctuated because, again, it's a stock market. Now, in terms of the zooming out, the 5-year trend, again, it's another thing with IPOs. Not all the time, but I mean, a lot of tech companies specifically, they seem to do an IPO, go up, and crash, and then years later they'll grow up and continue over time. Now, in this case, they're trying to still recover. So in the past 5-year trend, their stock is down 60.24%, which is pretty bad to say the least. A lot of value just erased, seemingly. Well, not overnight, 5 years, though. A wise man once said, if you don't take the time to sit and notice the roses or smell the roses, time will fly, or something like that. And again, according to the 1-year trend, they're actually up 10.383%. Now, past 6 months, they're down, not a lot, but down by 4.8%. And past month, geez Louise, I mean, hindsight really is 2020 with investing. Of course, granted, I wish I bought the stock like everyone did, but in the past month, it's up 28.18%. So that's really good. So, and then last week is up 14.3%. So it's going in the right direction. And it looks like, kind of give you a high level scope of the organization in terms of size. They have 4,500 employees. As of 2022, revenue of 2022 is $2.473 billion. So it'd be interesting to see they also know that these cuts come weeks after Aman Narang, the Toast co-founder and CEO, was replaced Chris Capartio as CEO under the corporation's leadership just last summer. The Toast started charging a fee of 99 cents for each online order that totaled more than $10. That seems ridiculously high. Now, granted, apples to oranges in terms of they're saying online orders, and granted this is food, but a good industry average, if you go to like a mom and pop shop or most grocery stores, most of those transactional fees are usually between 3 and 4% when you look at companies like Visa. Now, granted, that adds up heavily in the aggregate. Those are multi-billion-dollar companies. And again, it's all about gaining customer, gaining market share. And in this case, they're trying to sell this software and this hardware, this technology to business owners as well as large companies so that when they're processing customers' payments, they're using their infrastructure, their technology. And each of these companies, once they win a contract, when they're processing them, they take a percentage. That's how they make a profit. So that 99 cents per each, I mean, and again, no customer wants to pay for this in terms of the end user. So a lot of these companies just bury that cost so you don't see it. So an overwhelming majority of the time, I think New York just passed a law though, so in their area, they do have to have a line item on your receipt. But usually this cost is just hidden into the price of the food or the price of whatever you're buying. So the customer doesn't realize how much these can help or kneecap companies in terms of their profit margins. So unfortunately, it also looks like they are having a lot more competition. They noted Block, which I forget what Jack, the old Twitter guy, I think he bought, was it Square? He bought a payment processing company, then renamed it to Block, which, I don't know if that's great marketing. They also have Shift4. It's another competitor there that's starting to gain some market share. So it'll be interesting to see, again, can they make it? Because, again, unprecedented economical, political uncertainty in the United States. Are consumers going to decrease their spending? Are they going to increase it? Because, again, just a little bit of increase or a little bit of decrease can be detrimental for these types of companies where they're making a fraction of each transaction. So it'll be interesting to see, but as I always say, time shall tell. Other interesting business news, you have Ford CEO Jim Farley claiming that their pro-business that's the future, and to forget about things like Tesla. Now, I can't help but be impressed with Jim Farley in general because he is the only CEO of the big three, aka General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, that's still dedicated to one of the most beautiful things in all of history, which is the V8 engine. And they won the pony war, if you want to get into that debate. I mean, they're the only one around. The Camaro is going to apparently come back as a 2-door EV SUV, and I almost threw up in my mouth saying it out loud. And then Chrysler, with their Dodge, it might come back. The Charger is rumored to be an inline 6 engine, which, again, great for BMW. That brand's used that platform for generations and perfected it. For Dodge, I mean, when you buy a Charger or Challenger, you want the V8, you want the Hemi, but now they're going to do an electric version or an inline 6 engine, which is abhorrent to say the least. But Jim Farley specifically said they're dedicated to the V8 and offering, he doesn't care what the competition does, they're dedicated to keeping a entry-level sports car, the good old V8 and a stick shift. So obviously I'm a little bit biased because I'm a gearhead myself, and truth be told, I love driving with 3 pedals. Like every vehicle should have that by default. So perhaps that's why I might be covering this in a little bit more favorable light than others. Now, again, going back to Ford, in terms of the breakdown of the Ford company, they have a couple of branches. So they have Ford Blue, that's what you and I know and love. That's the traditional Ford where you have the F-150 with the internal combustion engine. You have the Ford Mustang. you have the traditional vehicles that are made with internal combustion engines. You also have the Ford E brand, which is, or their EV division, and that makes their, well, I was going to say they're highly unprofitable for now. Maybe long term it'll be better. Unprofitable things like the Ford F-150 Lightning, which kind of an oxymoron, or like a kosher pork chop. Like it doesn't make sense. So you have an EV, you have a truck that can't tow. Again, battery technology might fix that in the future. We're talking about the here and now with lithium ion and what have you. They also have the Ford Mustang E-Mach, which again, talk about using the name for something else it shouldn't be. Those are their EV line. That's losing money. You're putting more money into it. And then you have the Ford Pro, and then you have Ford Commercial, where they make the big giant trucks. They have 350, 450, 550, 750. I don't even know what they're up to because they seem to make so many different levels for larger commercial use. Now, they also note that Ford Pro has made up the automaker's traditional fleet and commercial business, as well as, most importantly, what we're saying here, emerging telematics, logistics, and other connected operations for business customers. Which, again, we'll dive deeper in this article, but right off the bat, that's going to be a big value add because that's a huge new vector for the business. You have things like General Motors and Chrysler, and they have competitors who they're increasing their investments when it comes to connected technologies, but more often than not, that is more for individual end users. You could debate fleet contracts being slightly different. When you have GM sell a bunch of vehicles to like one client like Hertz or something like that, Tesla did the same thing. But businesses, that's a huge new opportunity for Ford. Now, Ford expects their Pro units pre-tax earnings to increase between $8 billion and $9 billion this year, which is pretty darn good to say the least, before the government steals, a lot of it. I mean, tax. Now, going to some additional details, they note that Jim Farley, again the CEO of Ford, compared to the unit, which roughly doubled pre-tax earnings last year to $7.2 billion, to where Deere & Co. was 7 years ago. The farm equipment maker's stock has increased by 235% at 610, which is, geez Louise, hindsight's always 2020 with investing. That's ridiculous. Now, they also note, let's see here, quote, if you're looking for the future of the automotive industry, stop looking at FSD and Tesla, look at Ford Pro. It's got 500,000 subscribers with 50% gross margin, unquote. And that's from Jim Farley himself, which it is always kind of funny thing when it comes to profit margins. Most customers don't like hearing that it's too profitable because then they think they're overpaying. But for an automotive company to anytime have 50% GP, now again, this isn't on individual vehicles, makes sense versus traditionally more profitable than actual hardware materials, just like an IT. With laptops, you might make 2 or 3% points of margin. Like you can't even pay your rent selling laptops unless it's a massive volume order to someone like Toyota or something like that. Now, they also note that Ford Pro is made up of the automaker's traditional fleet and commercial businesses, as well as emerging technologies, logistics, and other connected operations for business customers, that ranging from local plumbers and electricians to massive corporations. That includes parts and services for the business, which, again, that's another huge vector of profit. As long as it's not a recall and you're actually selling parts to either replace things that naturally wear out over time or to upgrade the vehicle, that's another the parts department, that's a big point of profit as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Tesla, they are also noting that Tesla did not break out their revenue or earnings from its premium driver assisted software, marketed as its full driving beta FSD or FSD beta. Many Wall Street analysts have speculated that software could bring tens of billions of dollars per year by 2030. Let's see here. Geez Louise, in terms of subscriptions, this is getting out of hand. Ford said its expected revenue from telematics and other non-traditional subscription services to increase $2,000 per vehicle annually, or about $167 per month for Ford Pro in the years ahead. Geez Louise, not to go be too bombastic, but for $2,000 you get a moderately good Ford vehicle off Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. You might have some holes in it, but it'll still run a little. And that's just for subscription, which again, the economy is shifting. Every business on the planet wants to be a month-to-month subscription model because again, as long as you lock them in with long-term contracts, you can also solidify as a business. There's recurring revenue. I'm almost shocked we don't have toasters as a service these days where you just rent a toaster every month. Well, oh wait, pun not really intended. You do have companies like Rent-A-Center that do facilitate renting things like Xboxes and couches, which, again, I don't know how mentally vacuous are you would have to be to rent an Xbox, because again, read a book, as I always say. But nevertheless, getting back to Ford, Jim Farley also reiterated that 20% of Ford Pro's overall revenue is expected to come from such services by 2026. A lot of them are talking. So you have Morgan Stanley, one of their analysts by the name of Adam Jones, calling Ford Pro's companies. It's the company's Ferrari because it's going to be extremely profitable. So let's see here. A lot of people going into the Ferrari analogy, which again, traditionally, more luxury the product, the more profit margin there is. Now, Jim Farley admitted that the EV adoption is slower than demanded, and they're continuing to make investments in that, but they recognize that's the market's shifting dramatically when it comes to EV adoption rates. When asked for additional comment, he also said, quote, "We always had a super successful pro business, but there's no focus on it," unquote. "I think people are starting to see it," unquote, from Jim Farley. So, again, I think it's a brilliant move for Ford. Again, that family knows what they're doing. Fun little business fact. Although you and I could buy Ford stock if we want to, if we feel so inclined. Again, not financial advice. However, when it comes to the voting shares of how the company is run, the Ford family, still has a pretty significant role in the company. And it'll be interesting to see, again, it's one of the few companies, well, it's the only one of the big three that didn't go bankrupt and taking government handouts. So, pretty good track record. It'll be interesting to see how much does Ford really overtake the market when, I mean, you have other companies like Tesla where their stock price is hundreds of dollars per share, and Ford consistently a lot less. And I think a lot of these companies everyone wants to be a tech company. It's a cliche, not as old as time, but as old as the past perhaps 36 fiscal months. So it'll be interesting to see how much Ford continues to invest in that division of the company and how much could potentially bring up the stock. Again, not financial advice. Don't buy stock based on what I say. At most, maybe buy a book. Hard to go wrong with a book. But nevertheless, as I always say, time shall tell. Now, going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have women shoplifting in Orange County, California, going viral, to say the least. Now, this comes to us thanks to Clown World on X Twitter, and they specifically note a group of California women shoplifting at the outlets at Orange in Orange, California, sparked conservative concerns. This behavior needs to stop. Enough is enough, unquote. They did use an exclamation point. And this looks like a high-end luxury clothing and bag store. It certainly is not a grocery store. And again, within the first 24 hours, it got 1.1 million views and 9.7 thousand likes. And let's see here. These ladies, I don't want to say they're low class, but they did not suit up as every man should. Or I was going to say, maybe we need to alter that. Dress up as every woman should? Might have to alter that. Might have to add another saying to the Rolodex. Or not the Rolodex, but the saying book. Nevertheless, they are wearing sweaters with, what is that? I believe they used to say bling on their neck with the necklaces. Let's play this for a New York minute here. Or a California minute. Nevertheless, it's only about 27 seconds long. So women are just, wow, the audacity, and also shows you the moral decay of California. Again, they voted for it. I forget it was Prop 26. There's a prop where they voted to have $950. If you steal up to that, that's no longer a felony. It's just a misdemeanor. And the way the public system works in terms of public justice is a volume business. They come to you to negotiate. They have you say, instead of charging you for this, we'll plead down, give you less penalty if you just agree and settle. And so instead of starting at a felony and pleading down to a misdemeanor, now you're starting a misdemeanor and pleading down to basically nothing. And some DAs in California just don't prosecute it. So you have ladies, and I say that because it's astonishing, I guess you shouldn't be too surprised, they're not even wearing a mask. So they aren't covering their face at all. And this one lady has 6 purses that she's stealing. And this other lady has 7 purses. And they're waddling out of the store. Oh, they're stealing it. Oh, what did they sucker punch someone in the head? What is this? Oh, yeah, so a lady went up to a guy and punched him in the back of the head. You can't spell class without ass, I suppose. Is that what they say? Or less. Oh, the coward. They did nothing. Cowards. No one tried to stop them. So how many was that? How many morally vacuous people was that? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of course, they're also knocking over displays, destroying property, as well as stealing the property. and no one stopped them. Imagine if we had these laws on a national level. That is so ridiculous. And it is also hilarious when people always say, oh yeah, they're just stealing to feed their family. I've yet to see a viral video of someone stealing bread or work boots or a self-improvement book. Maybe someone will do that in my lifetime just like as a troll or like just like to make a joke. But I've never seen a video of that going viral, or I've never seen any evidence of that. They're always stealing luxury items you don't need and just being greedy as all hell and morally and mentally vacuous to say the least. But again, people voted for this. They get what they want. Now, perhaps I'm alone with this assessment. Maybe everyone in the comments will say, oh yeah, I believe the youth might say, you go girl, and encourage this behavior. These are all women, by the way, stealing purses. And it looks to be luxury, expensive leather purses, which, again, you don't need. No one needs a purse. Can't but think, there's no real reason to have a purse. It's a luxury item to say the least. You could always just use a plastic bag if you're in an emergency, or, again, how much crap do you really need to carry on you? But nevertheless, let's go to the comments and see what's the general feedback. So, bad sheep, which, I don't want to say F- for marketing, but the picture is in fact of the anonymous mask and the American flag background, not in fact of a sheep. Now, let me see. This is actually a video of, what is that? Oh, what is that gal's name? She's mentally vacuous, of course. Reminds me of the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. What is it? AOC, yes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let's see what she says. Well, there might be pearls of wisdom that come from her mouth. Let's see.
And so they go out and they need to feed their child and they don't have money. So you maybe they're put in a position where they feel like they either need to shoplift some bread or go hungry that night. And so,
my head hurt. I almost got done listening to her. But nevertheless, he said, quote, they're just trying to feed their family, and it's laughing emojis. And under the video of AOC, there's a picture of her saying bread, and the bread bags are all relabeled Nike, Apple, Gucci. Now, this is also a reference to another viral video where there's a gentleman going to an Apple store and stole no less than 30 iPhones by just ripping them off the store. Again, just rip the security cord, which epic fail for security, too. What kind of product can't stand a simple, yank of the cord? And yet no one stopped him either. He just put it in his, what do the youth call it? The sweatpants with the big baggy pants, and just left the store. But let's go to the comments again. So I got 760 likes. Dave the Meme Smith, A+ for marketing. He did in fact respond with a meme, or some call it a meme if you're French, or maybe that's a youth term or pronunciation. And he says, quote, will they ever learn? And it's a picture of a gentleman in a car, and it says, quote, they closed all the stores. Now it's time to commute 40 miles to shoplift, unquote. They got 772 likes. The Matrix Unraveled said, quote, perpetuating the racial type and then complaining about assumptions, unquote, getting 412 likes. And from the video, let me rewind it really quick. Well, not rewinding, more like play it again. Well, I don't know these gals, but from the video, it appears that they're all African American. I don't know where they're actually from or what have you. Scrolling down again. Mollusk says, quote, they all seem to have something in common, but I can't quite put my finger on it, unquote. Getting 205 likes. Sir Majesty says, quote, notice they don't go after work boots, unquote. And as a meme of Yogi Bear, the old beloved cartoon, and the text on Yogi Bear says, quote, is it them again, Yogi? And then he says, it always is always them, unquote, boo-boo, unquote. They got 598 likes. Ryan Wasilinsky says, quote, normalizing this behavior is what making America what it is. They should be ashamed of themselves, unquote, getting 126 likes. The Rational Post says, quote, I'm so sick of the lack of diversity in these videos, unquote, getting 508 likes. NAPWP, they say, quote, I never would have imagined that I would live to see the day that this is accepted behavior, unquote, getting 292 likes. Planet of Memes, though alleged Planet of Memes, they in fact responded with simple text, but this alleged Planet of Memes says, quote, come on, they're just getting some bread for their starving kids, unquote, getting 271 likes. Which, yeah, no. See here? And again, that is an old rudimentary argument as well. that also brings up the debate. Some people bring up, oh yeah, it's a justified to steal. Now, perhaps a too philosophical question to discuss or topic to discuss in such a short segment of the show, but a lot of people debate, well, it's okay because they need to feed the family. Well, do two wrongs make a right? And a very concerning saying that one of my old public schools teachers brainwashed a lot of my classmates to believe is every day she would teach us the saying, the end justifies the means, unquote. Which, if you look at history books and the concept, that is a quite concerning statement to believe and promulgate. When you consider, if you could apply that to anything, and all of a sudden you could be the worst, most evil person in history, but if you got the outcome that you wanted, or that society says is good, then it's justified? That should be pretty concerning, to say the least. Scrolling down and do a couple more comments here. Santani, India flag emoji, says, quote, cultural enricher steals about 40 phones and no one interferes. And this was a video of, what is this? So I was in Oakland, California, where a gentleman in sweatpants, really expensive, let's see here. I believe those are Nike red shoes, which probably not cost more than my car, but more than my other shoes, for sure. He's walking around the store and I was wrong, it wasn't 30. He stole 40 iPhones and he literally just goes up to display and rips them out, puts them in his pocket. Now, he's also mentally vacuous and moronic. In addition to just being, evil and stealing, it's a piece of technology. Apple can just turn that off remotely. In fact, they can also track it remotely. So you're basically stealing garbage because Apple, if they're smart, they'll just turn it off. As soon as they know it's stolen, they'll just remote in and destroy it. So then you're left with the value of the precious metals in the phone, which are decreasing year over year as engineers become more and more efficient with utilizing other materials. So, but again, we can't expect too much from someone who's a thief, and certainly, although I guess unlike the ladies, he did put a mask on. So at least he is, I guess, not as dumb as the ladies in the other video where, again, they had no mask, just going to the store and stealing stuff. Let's see. Progressive Californian says, quote, Soros' investment in passing 2024's Prop 47 continues to pay off as he intended, unquote, getting 32 likes. And that is the specific prop I was referring to earlier, in which it's no longer a felony if you steal up to $950. It's just misdemeanor. Let's see here. Swampy says, quote, all shop operators should carry. If the police don't do their job, it's up to the citizens. Then it's up to the citizens at this point, question mark. They got 74 likes, which the concerning thing is many instances this has happened with what's a nice way of saying politically charged judges and district attorneys. If you defend yourself in some states, depending on your laws, they'll actually go after you, which is morally vacuous to say the least. See here. 1791 says, quote, if there was an immediate stiff punishment, this would stop immediately, unquote. They got 52 likes, and of course he is 110% correct. The incentive structure is that of which in California, where it's all, the whole incentive system is made and designed right now to just let you shoplift. And we've seen this time and time again, especially in San Francisco. It's gotten to the point where CVS is locking up toothpaste and candy and makeup. Now, interestingly enough, they're not locking up work boots or Bibles, but nevertheless, no one's prosecuting them. So there are a lot of people in the comments trying to correlate this to race. I think every race does steal. So I think it's much more about culture. And there are a couple more kind of people throwing out statistics. Let's see here. Based Chef says, quote, or it's a meme of everyone stealing from a Nike store and destroying the glass and breaking inside. And it says, quote, use code BLM to receive 100% discount at Nike, unquote, getting 78 likes. See here. So, I'm trying to see if there's, because again, I follow a couple of people who are middle and left because I want to gain as much perspective as possible, make the show a little more interesting. So I follow a lot of people on X Twitter, and I recommend to do that as well because, again, it makes life a little more interesting when there's more diverse of thought. And I'm not seeing a lot of contrarian statements here. I'm not seeing anyone in the comments who are sticking up or trying to take the side of the shoplifters in this case. Most of them are mocking them venomously, or I would say appropriately. So it'll be interesting to see, again, from a cultural perspective, what will it take for things to change in California? Or for them to vote differently, maybe for them to vote against that prop or to remove that prop and say, oh yeah, what if it was a felony? What if you went to jail for 20 years if you stole anything over $1 in value? And they actually prosecuted crimes. Now, some might say it's too harsh. A debate for another time, perhaps. But a lot of people wouldn't recommend you go all Saudi Arabia out, where they actually physically, which is actually a good little reference to a couple of biblical passages. But there are some countries where if you shoplift, they get rid of your ability to shoplift by removing your hand. Those countries have very low shoplifting rates. That also goes back to our statement earlier, does the end justify the means? Another debate for another time, perhaps. A lot of people would say you probably want to be somewhere in the middle, but at least make it so there's a punishment. Because right now there basically isn't. So it'll be interesting to see, what does it take? Let me know in the comments. Like, people are moving all over the United States. A lot of people are leaving California specifically for this reason. Let me know, what do you think it will take to actually have a cultural shift where we have more personal accountability, we start coming together and start saying it's not okay to steal? I hope that time is soon, but let's just say if I were to look at that magic 8 ball, unfortunately, I think the magic 8 ball would still say the outlook is not good. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Fani Willis admitting to financial crime and going viral. Granted, I don't think she'll actually get any consequences because 2024 and your political affiliation definitely does matter in that regards. Now, this comes to us thanks to Laura Loomer on X Twitter, and she said, quote, bombshell admission of campaign finance fraud by Fulton County DA Fani Willis. She says Fani Willis appears to have admitted to campaign finance crime while testifying about why she gave her prosecutor lover, Nathan Wade, large payments of cash, which is believed to be Fulton County taxpayer money. This is grounds for termination, and she should actually go to jail for this. Now, thankfully, it's not too long, only about 2 minutes, and as youth might say, it went viral, to say the least, getting 2 million views and 43,000 likes. Now, granted, I'm going to play this in a New York minute here. Let's see, perhaps this video will actually, maybe she'll bless us with some eloquent speech and justification, and maybe it's all a simple misunderstanding. It's not, but let's dive in and find out.
But I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life.
As a youth might say, hold up. You're admitting you always have cash in your house. It seems like I wouldn't want people to know that. It's also cash, so it's not worth a lot of these days. But, well, I guess maybe, I think it's Georgia. She'll probably be protected. Her house probably isn't in any danger. She's a politician. But, yeah, telling people, I got lots of money in my house. The safest place I guess say, not financial advice, but I would say the safest place for your money is probably a small bank and a safety deposit box. Yeah, that's it. But nevertheless, dive back to the video.
You're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from, if it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. I've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my
So is she talking about money laundering? What?
whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that.
What? So you had a big campaign and you said, oh yeah, I'll just take some cash to my place. Have you ever heard that before? Ever?
Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to.
So she's saying a very good practice is to, let me get this right. A very good practice is to have lots of money at your house that could burn down or be stolen. She's saying that's a good practice, just to keep having hordes of cash at your place. Mentally vacuous, yes. Have you ever heard that advice? I don't think a financial advisor or any security expert would say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Have physical assets at your house. Which, again, most houses in the United States, most of them don't have robust security systems. They're very easy to defeat.
To all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from.
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. No, it's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at Cade.
What? I understand maybe having $100 or maybe a couple $100 in like the kitchen drawer or something. Oh, presume buy a safe first off. I understand maybe having a couple $100. $15,000? Holy mackerel. Or Moses, as some might say. $15,000. And again, where's this money coming from?
Cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house.
Again, a big green light for all the thieves out there. She's telling people, oh yeah, there's always cash in my house. What?
Or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period. It's probably in there. It could have.
It's probably in there. Which again, using public funds for private activities such as sleeping around with this guy seems pretty mentally vacuous to say the least. Now, granted, given today's political climate, at most she might get an angry letter from someone in politics. She might, I believe they call it a slap on the wrist. So maybe she'll get an angry letter written to her. I suspect that'll be her only punishment. But let's go in the comments and find out. Maybe everyone is an overwhelming majority supportive of her. I mean, probably not, but let's dive in and find out. One of the first comments comes from Paul Zazupa. He says, quote, "Wow, this is bad. Fani just admitted to breaking the law with how she used campaign funds. She now just found another way to make her case worse. Well done, Fani," unquote. Getting 2.5 thousand likes. And yeah, I don't know how mentally vacuous she is. I mean, when it comes to any time you're on trial or any time you're, again, not legal advice, but the good rule of thumb is speak less, not more. And she's giving them so much additional data and she's shooting herself in the high-heeled foot. Now, not as, perhaps worse than the way Ron DeSantis shot himself in the high-heeled boot for his political campaign, which crashed and burned perhaps one of the worst campaigns in history. Now, let's go to the comments here. You have Ultra Super Maga says, quote, "That's called misuse of campaign funds. She admitted to committing a felony under oath. She's burnt toast," unquote. I got 2.1 thousand likes. Let's see here. Sean of DeFi says, quote, "This might become a much larger story than an impeachment hearing. Fani keeping money from her campaign and kept it campaign finance crime," unquote. I got 1.7 thousand likes. Eric Wages says, quote, "These people couldn't handle 1% of what they have put Donald Trump through. They are crumbling under the pressure instantly, and it makes me respect Donald Trump and his composure. The man faced lies, slander, and people trying to throw him in prison and has stood strong," unquote, getting 2.9 thousand likes. Live PD Dave says simply, "Lock her up," and then just a picture of her with a sheriff logo behind her. They got 2.4 thousand likes. Salty Texan says, quote, "Fani Willis didn't pay her taxes and misuses campaign funds. Haul her ass to jail," unquote, getting 1.7 thousand likes. Let's see here. Christina says, quote, "FYSA." Sure, that's something in Urban Dictionary I need to look up. FYS, for your silly agenda? No. FYSA. Let's learn a little bit some today. What does the good old internet say about FYSA? What does that stand for? What does FYSA mean? For your situational awareness. Interesting. Acronyms are cool. They make you sound smart. So she says FYSA. A. It's not commonly referred to as a date when you are paying a married man to have sex with you. B. All women should have cash in their house at all times? Question mark. C. That cash may not be at her house if she is laying her head somewhere else, unquote. They got 433 likes. And yeah, I was going to say, the gentleman was also married at the time, which also shows you how morally vacuous she is as well, in addition to the lack of morals in all of our activities. Daniel simply says, lock her up, getting 1,000 likes, and has a picture of Trump dancing in the background as she's saying stuff in court. Let's see. Art Candy says, quote, that was her own money that she... Sorry, let me repeat that. Again, I'm not a speaking professional by any means. However, I have a theory. When I first started the show, there's no subscribers, maybe 2. And my speech was terrible. I spoke too fast. I was stumbling over my words, mispronouncing a lot of things. And as the subscriber count has increased, my speaking has improved. Some might argue it's just a modicum of improvement since there's still a lot of errors, but a modicum of improvement is still improvement, to say the least. I have a theory that the more subscribers I get, the more that assists with my lack of speaking skills. So if you can click that button, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So I will attempt to read that again. Again, from Art Candy, says, quote, that was her own money that she paid for her first campaign. Nice try, unquote, getting 799 likes. Let's see here. Debbie Brownlee says, quote, she's so full of herself, she thinks she is above any law. I hope she's taken down and sent packing, unquote, getting 459 likes. First words say, quote, at this rate, every word out of her mouth is another year she'll serve. Keep asking her questions, unquote, getting 940 likes. Which, again, I'm actually shocked how... I mean, maybe she just knows she'll never really face any consequences in this day and age. And that's why she's, not worried about it. Deep State says, quote, can't keep all the lies straight. She just screwed herself, unquote, getting 473 likes. Finally, a contrarian statement. We had to scroll through a few of them to actually find someone who's disagreeing with this or offering some other information. This comes from Ren. Now, Ren says, quote, you know who is going to challenge you on that? Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She did the same thing, only she spent it on a fence. What? So it says here, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, this seems to be an excerpt. It doesn't tell me the actual news article or source that it's from, but it's just text. So the text says, quote, Marjorie Taylor Greene spent $65,000 in campaign funds on her home fence. The fence cost $10,000 more than the median household income for the district, unquote, getting 176 likes. Now, this is the first time hearing that. Let's see here. Interesting. Trying to see if there's any... That is contrary. Again, let me know in the comments. Have you heard that before? That would be concerning to say the least. Well, more than vacuous to say the least. Now, Frank says, quote, people like her are why the trust in our system is eroding. She belongs in a cell, not an office. Absolute disgrace. I'm quoting 830 likes. Let's see. Domika De Ilia says, quote, Fani Willis is a complete mess, trying to filibuster every question, looks like complete idiot and a liar, unquote. Getting 662 likes. Donald J. Trump parody account says, quote, Democrats are beyond dumb, unquote, getting 398 likes, which, again, foolish to say that, considering whatever you're doing, whether it be a sports balls event, business, never underestimate your opponent. That's when you lose. So, I certainly there are some dumb people that are Republican and Democrat, but I wouldn't say all. Let me see here. Scrolling down a couple bit more. Doreen Victoria says, quote, all charges against Trump should be dropped, unquote, getting 46 likes. Paul E. C. says, quote, as they say about Trump, no one is above the law. It's time for Miss Willis to pay the piper, unquote, getting 28 likes. So a couple contrarian statements, but Liz Burgess also says she said as much as $90,000. Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, she said as much as $9,000, but has not paid property taxes either, unquote, getting 18 likes. So it'll be interesting to see if she does actually face any consequences, or again, she just gets a nice little angry letter sent to her. So, I mean, does this shift people's perception of her? Is it going to shift, the whole, again, she's prosecuting Donald Trump. Is this going to be a contributing factor? It'll be interesting to see, but as I always say, time shall tell. Other interesting political news, you have Tucker Carlson critiquing Lindsey Graham for pushing the Ukraine bill. Now, Tucker Carlson on X Twitter specifically said, quote, Lindsey Graham's latest scheme is convincing Republicans that it's somehow better to loan Zelensky $60 billion rather than give it to him. Some are falling for this, but it's fraudulent. Ukraine will never repay the debt and will never make them. It's just a more dishonest way to send more unaccounted for weapons to the region, delay the inevitable peace deal, and kill the more forcible conscripted Ukrainians, some of whom are nearly Lindsey Graham's age. It'd be easier to take if he'd joined them on the battlefield, unquote. And I got 5.2 million views and 86,000 likes, which I can't help but think, as youth might say, he's on point with that assessment because, again, it is so common for the government to give out loans only to, quote unquote, forgive the loans, which is a very nice way of saying they're off the hook. I mean, this is the whole controversy on the student loan repayment or the, quote unquote, student loan forgiveness. They're letting the individuals off the hook for advocating for the responsibility to pay back the loan, but the taxpayers have to pay that. And realistically, also China does because we're taking loans out from China and they're loaning us more and more money. But yeah, because the odds that this would be forgiven if it was a loan, I don't want to say it's 100%, but it's probably 99.999999997% that we would just give it a couple fiscal quarters so the American public would forget, and it'd just be a single line item on a news article one day, like, oh yeah, we just forgave that loan. But let's jump to the comments. Maybe everyone is angry at Tucker. They go, no, we need to loan Ukraine this much money, even though we've given them about $200 billion, and now they just want a loan. Yeah. But let's dive in and find out. Paul Zazupa says, quote, Lindsey Graham is the epitome of a warmonger. He cares nothing for lives and only for money. He doesn't care about who gets lost in the process. If we're going to fix the Republican Party, Lindsey Graham needs to resign and be replaced by someone who's America first and promotes peace over war, unquote, getting 3.8 thousand likes. Right Angle News Network, which, I mean, A+ for marketing. Their logo is quite literally, in fact, a picture of the good old geometry textbook we used to use growing up, where it's a right angle. So A+ for marketing. The logo is awesome. And they say, quote, Does everyone else find it ironic how our government went from telling us that Russia was one of the weakest militaries in the world and that Ukraine was going to do a great job against them to, oh my God, Russia has a special nuclear weapons. Our government is lying to us and our media is lying to us. We can only trust journalists. Follow me if you agree, unquote, getting 2.7 thousand likes. Which, yeah, that is hilarious that, again, you have to be pretty mentally vacuous to believe the U.S. government when they said this when the first conflict broke out between Ukraine and Russia. They go, I mean, Russia's weak. Well, they'll defeat them in a week. Nope. And yeah, in terms of I don't know what the Las Vegas odds are for the Russia and the Ukraine conflict, but it's actually, I would actually debate that while Russia is still the underdog, because, again, every country on the planet is sending money as well as physical accoutrements. You got weapons physically, as well as you also have medical aid. Every country on the planet seems to be, nearly every country is supporting Ukraine. Yet Russia is still not backing off or losing land, depending on what you define until military terms, what vernacular you choose. Now, going back to a couple more comments. You have, let's see, Dave Benner, Nemesis and Neocon, saying, quote, Ukraine is the new Afghanistan. The regime doesn't want a successful war. It wants an endless war, unquote. Getting 3.9 thousand likes. Let's see here. Sandy says, quote, the biggest sponge of the economy. And it's a ShamWow guy, but he replaced the ShamWow magical material with the Ukraine flag, and it says, ScamWow now absorbs twice the taxes, unquote. And they got 350 likes. And yeah, it's astonishing how much money that they have gotten. And it's not, I mean, none of it's being, checked for or accounted for. It's no scrutiny or third-party audit, making sure the money is used appropriately or doesn't just walk away or disappear. But I digress. You got Matthew J. Show saying Lindsey Graham is the most compromised politician in history, getting 397 likes. Let's see here. Let's see. A couple of advertisements. Which I was going to say, I thought I had the magical, I got the blue check mark. Maybe it's just, now it's considered the basic X Twitter. But you may have to upgrade to the WY Banana Falcon or whatever package is for the one where you actually don't see ads. Matt Kim simply says, send Lindsey Graham to the front line, getting 617 likes. Let's see. Maley says, quote, Lindsey Graham is an idiot. Why does anyone in the Republican GOP or MAGA claim him? Getting 499 likes. David Talpy actually tweeted a picture. He said, "Enough said," and then the picture is in fact of F Ukraine, with the F being spelled out in the flags of the Russian, or colors of the Russian flag, and the Ukraine text being colored in the Ukraine flag colors. That got 1.1 thousand likes. Let's see, there are many comments. The last one we'll do is Mike Sarsaparilla said, "Quote, the man endures war," and quoting 623 likes. So it is fascinating from a cultural perspective as well, and political. There's a lot, again, it's anecdotal, just looking at social media. It's not like a nationwide survey, but there seems to be less and less people supporting Ukraine. Now, that being said, there's still, I don't know, some people want to say this is concerning, but there's some neighborhoods in the United States where there's more Ukraine flags than United States flags, just because it shows their priority in their allegiance. But it'll be interesting to see, is there enough shift in the U.S. public support when it comes to Ukraine conflict? Or does it ever decrease to the point where D.C. actually stops giving them seemingly unlimited amounts of resources, both monetary, fiscal speaking, giving them cash, as well as, hardware and physical stuff? It'll be interesting to see, but as I usually always say, time shall tell. Now going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Lyft's $2 billion typo, perhaps the most expensive typo in history. Now this comes to us thanks to Inc.com. They note that Lyft CEO gave a humble 6-word response to the $2 billion mistake, and they note that he said there's plenty of game to go around, but the CEO, David Rasher, did the right thing. He took ownership. So he literally just said, first of all, it's all on me, unquote, which, again, it seems to be accountability is an extremely rare word these days. I wouldn't be surprised if public schools don't actually teach the definition of the word. Well, it's also quite concerning in public schools in general, but nevertheless, it is becoming a more and more rare word to see. Now, it looks like that was his response when he had an interview with Bloomberg when they were asking about what are they calling the $2 billion typo. Lyft was forced to issue a major correction to a press release announcing that the 2024 earnings margin outlook was expected to expand by 500 base points instead of the accurate 50 base points, which, yeah, that is a huge, huge, huge typo. That they note that the extra zero led to a huge jump in the share price in after-hours trading, briefly creating a $2 billion market cap for Lyft, which begs the question, what does it drop back down to? I was going to say Lyft is probably best known for being not Uber. It's one of those things where Uber has the vast majority of their of the stock market, or of the market share in terms of the whole ride experience where you trust a stranger to drive you around somewhere. And Lyft, while still big, is still far behind good old Uber. Now it looks like went down about 5% after those news. Market cap 7.1. Let's see here. LYFT 7.11. Really, LYFT. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Rental Lyft, LYFT. Yeah, it's not good to have that big of a stock bump. $2 billion bubble. Jeez Louise. And how, I don't know how, can't imagine how irate the investors are when they saw that news. They bought the stock and it turned out, oh yeah, it's not that profitable. So subsequently, of course, a lot of them sold it as soon as they realized it was an issue. Now, CEO said, quote, "We go through hours and hours of checking and double checking before something like this goes public. It's an unacceptable error. Again, it's ultimately on me. I'm the CEO. The buck stops with me." Let's see here. So I was going to say, I don't know how good the CFO is feeling as well, because that's really one of the biggest financial issues or mistakes I've seen in years. Let's see here. So caused a lot of people to lose a lot of money on the stock market, gambling, I mean, smartly investing. But interestingly enough, from a PR perspective, a lot of the feedback is actually giving him accolades and kudos, as some might say, for handling the situation relatively well. But don't get me wrong, such a simple error, just one little number, made billions of dollars in difference. To not have just have an extra intern in the office to review documents before you publish anything, if you don't want to pay someone to do that full time. But yeah, having a typo that caused a $2 billion bubble and a mistake, I mean, it has to be the most expensive typo, and that is, without a doubt, the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of February, so if you click that button, greatly appreciate it. Also, sharing the video, leaving a comment or up thumb or thumb down is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.